Hello everybody, it's your pal Gracious TV here. So, a while back on this channel, I posted this video. It's actually one of my earliest ones, and in it, I talked about a concept I had for a potential future comic featuring some characters that I had redesigned at the time, called Moonstone. Now, obviously it has been a while since I posted that video, and even longer since I've actually talked about it, but that doesn't mean I haven't been working on it. Actually, I've been working on the story and world ever since, and I've also been working on their designs. Not just the two characters that I showed in the original video, but also all the other main characters and maybe the villains too. I actually did promise to show the other characters way back then, but you know what, now it's finally time. I'm fulfilling that promise now, like a good couple of years later. I'm going to talk about the world and concepts, the characters and story, as well as talk about their design evolution over the years. Obviously, the designs I'm going to be showing more than likely won't be their final looks, as the story is still in kind of pre-production, if you will. But I'm pretty happy with them so far, so I hope you like them. With that, let's begin with, of course, the main character. So starting off, of course, with the main character, Moonstone, aka River. Now, you might have noticed that I'm drawing this in a slightly different style, or at least using different brushes, and this is because I'm actually playing around with making the style a lot different from my other ones in order to convey a more classic comic book feel combined with pop art and of course my own style. Now, if you're wondering why I'm using a different illustration process, that's the reason. If you're wondering what Moonstone is, the story anyway, it's a magical girl, superhero, sci-fi, cyberpunk fantasy story, if that makes sense. But the whole concept is that in this futuristic version of our world, the main characters all live in this big island city, and there are also these gemstones. One day, one of the main characters who was working on an experiment in order to find all these special gemstones, the machine accidentally goes wrong and instead awakens the properties inside of the gems, and whoever was wearing one is transformed by the magic. What the gems do is change your hair and eye color and hair length, and gives you different abilities based on the gemstone. River was one of these people on that night, as well as a bunch of other people, but a lot of these people were criminals or start working for these weird corporations, and so Moonstone has to fight them. I'll talk a bit more about what the gemstones do as we talk about the characters, of course. Moonstone's design has changed a lot, and if you've seen that first video, you probably know how, but originally the characters were meant to be a normal magical girl story, which definitely wasn't a Sailor Moon ripoff, and Moonstone wasn't even the main character. They had looked like this, so obviously quite a bit has changed, but there are still a few key things that have stayed, namely the short blue hair and stuff. I have struggled a bit with writing this character, but I finally got a good grasp of who they are. Before River became Moonstone, they were a simple student who lived with their grandma and has two close friends. They're calm, witty, smart, and a realist, but cares mostly about their friends and the people close to them. However, they have had a hard time expressing their emotions and what they want. They're also gender fluid and is half Indian. As Moonstone, they fight pretty sneakily and tries their best to hide their identity, even though the gemstone already transforms their appearance to where it would be pretty hard to tell who it was unless you knew them really well. Now, it's time to know about their powers, weapons, and design choices. As far as powers, each gem has one they control and a passive one, so Moon's is actually affected less than our world's gravity, or their world's gravity, and more like the gravity on one of their moons. So they're able to jump much higher and dodge and run much quicker. Their offense ability is one that is a bit hard to describe, but they're able to kind of control water in a way, being able to even manipulate the humidity in the air, and it always takes the forms of extra limbs. So if needed an extra hand to punch something or grab it, they could manipulate the water around them in order to do so. At first it was just going to be basic water manipulation, but I decided to make it more specific, and the way that I'm actually portraying all their powers and stuff is based off of how that gemstone works in mythology. However, a lot of the mythology stuff surrounding Moonstone is like oracle based and future sight, but I didn't want that for Moonstone, this character Moonstone, because I have several gemstone villains that also have this ability, and it would be kind of hard to use just foresight as a power for fighting and combat. And it's also It's also been done before, and I thought this one was really much more interesting. Also, one thing to add is how I determine everyone's abilities or design is. Oh, wait, I already mentioned that. The mythology that the gyms is based on also has some take in what their actual design looks like and or what culture they've been used in for different purposes. I noticed that they have a special purpose in India, so that's largely why I decided to make them half Indian, and is what inspired parts of their design, like the sash that they wear. I have been doing more research into Indian culture, but if there is anyone who knows more about it than I do, then I'd love to hear some things that I can use for their future designs. Another thing is that this world also has a retro 80s theme. I also added in things like shoulder pads and leg warmer things in order to convey that on their main design or their superhero design. And all in all, the rest of their look is supposed to convey sort of like a cyberpunk spy with the colors and the mask. Their main weapon is a bow staff, which I changed here to be see-through on both ends, unlike the first one, and also their sash, which can turn into a lasso thing for now, but I'll probably change that. As far as their normal design, I wanted to mix both masculine and feminine looks, since they are gender fluid, and also like a chill guitarist energy, since they're a part of a band with their friends and played the guitar. And yes, they did dye their hair. One more thing I would like to note is that each character has a different shape or symbol in their eye shines, and you might be able to guess what they mean if you look close enough. As far as the drawing, I had a fun time with it and working on the background. The hardest thing was getting the idea for the composition and the pose, but I cut that part out so you didn't have to see it. It took me a really long time to do it, and I had a fun time working in this style. I used the brush pen thing for the line art and used a lot of screen tones. They're screen tones I made in my material folder. I might link them or have them available in the Clips You Paint asset library if I can. I have no idea how to do that, but I might. But yeah, that is the drawing, and that is Moonstone. Now it's time to talk about the other character, the only other character that I talked about in the last video. The next character is Quartz, aka Rosa. Yes, I am so good at naming my characters. I know, like, wow, such names, such wow. Again, if you've seen the original video where she's from, then you know that Rosa was originally going to be the main character of her first story. However, unlike Moon, both her look and personality hasn't changed too much. Rosa in the story comes in a bit later and is a transfer student. She's Hispanic and is super energetic and spunky and fun, but is also not the brightest in the world. As a normal kid, she's a hip-hop dancer, but she loves superhero and magical girl stories and games, so you can imagine that when she got her powers, she was super excited, and I actually tried to convey that in her design. See, the 3 gem wielders you'll see here are all helped with making their designs, which were made by one of the other characters I'm going to show here. So hers is a much more traditional magical girl outfit inspired by ancient Greek clothes. The reason for this is also the reason behind one of her powers. Another difference between her and Moon is that as Rose Quartz, she's not nearly as careful about hiding her identity. I mean, her name is literally Rosa, and I think this would come from her stance of not really getting why she needs to and not feeling like she has much to protect, as she didn't move in the area with her family, and most of her friends already know about her powers as well, so they kind of work as a team. As far as her powers, for her passive one, she has a super strength and is really strong. Her offensive ability is one of my favorite ones I've come up with. One of the main mythologies that the Rose Quartz is a part of is the Greek myth involving Aphrodite, where basically she and a lover of hers die and their blood was spilt on the gemstone, giving it a pink color. So Rose's ability is that if she gets wounded or is injured and her blood is exposed, she can crystallize it and use the crystals to attack. She can also do this if there's a lot of her blood on the ground or walls and have crystals shoot out from that area. It's a pretty morbid power, which I think is a really fun contrast with the person that Rosa is, and is one of my favorite aspects about her. Her weapons are a simple sword that kind of acts like a short broadsword, and for her overdress thing, it turns into a shield. You can see, you can probably tell that all of the gyms wearing their secondary weapons as see-through clothing, and yes, this was a decision based on my time in the Steven Universe fandom, making a whole bunch of pearl OCs, but I can't help it. It's never left me, and I'm going to just use what I've learned for this one, okay? So shush. I actually do have a video in the making about something similar to that, where I may or may not be taking some of my pearl OCs and turning them into, or redesigning them into my own universe, but we'll see if that happens. It's already happening, but I'm just gonna be mysterious about it. As far as her civilian design, I went more with the cyberpunk design and with an almost like leotard look under a big jacket. And I also gave a little bandage on her knee because she would probably have injured herself there. I really liked this design for her rather than her first one, which gave off a much more preppy vibe. Let me show it to you here. It really does not fit her, I feel like, at that time. So I feel like this one is much more livelier and much more spunky. And I also made her hair shorter, which I don't think I have ever really done. Well, her hair hasn't actually really changed much at all. Pretty much in all of her forms or all of her designs, her transformed hair has pretty much stayed the same. And so has her civilian design. I've just changed the length of it throughout. I think in one of her very first ones, though, it was actually like as short as it is now. So I don't remember. But I do know that I love her hair and it's fun to draw. And it's a lot of hair. Would be fun to animate if I knew how to animate hair. I do slightly. The drawing for this one was way easier to do because I had a clear idea of what I wanted for her pose to be and the composition. It was also really fun to work with all the pink as well because I wanted each of the backgrounds to be the same as the main character, just to add more like harmony. This is something I do all the time, not only my artworks but my comics as well, but that's okay. And the composition, as you can probably tell, is may or may not be inspired by a shot from Spider-Verse, and so have maybe the Moonstone drawing, which may or may not be one of my biggest inspirations for this new comic series. But you know what? Sometimes it's good to just wear your inspiration on your sleeve. You know what? That's one of mine. And you lied to me and tell me you didn't make a series and this after watching the first Spider-Verse movie, or like a series that was inspired by it, and then your passion for it only grew when you watched Across the Spider-Verse. I can't be the only one. I know you're the same. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Rose Quartz. The next character is Adventurine, aka Xialing. Xia is the youngest of the group, and I was originally going to show her in the promised part 2 vid long ago. I even made an artwork that I never used, but now I can finally share her here. So Xia also comes in later as well, and her and Rosa are really close, and since her parents have died, she's sort of like Xia's adopted sister. I imagine that Rosa had visited the city they lived in when they were younger, but had to leave. They were pen pals, even though they wouldn't use pen and paper because future. But they were able to reconnect when Rosa moved back. Xia lost her parents when they died in a car accident that she was also a part of. And the explosion of the car after the crash was so loud that she lost her hearing. You might be wondering how a smallish explosion could have done that, but I imagine that she already had kind of bad hearing and it just got worse. So Xia's deaf, so she communicates through sign language and drawing. Xia meets the others when Rosa brought her in and forgot to tell the others. She got super curious about the gemstones and eventually got the Adventurine. For her design, it's obviously very fairy inspired, and that's because Xia really loves fairies, so she would have designed it that way. And yes, I know that with the way it's drawn mixed with the green, and she very much looks like Tinkerbell, but that's not the point. Her colors are, I think, the most monochromatic of the group, but I think they really suit her. Adventurines always tend to be associated with luck, even being called the Gambler's Stone, so I did use some of that for her powers, and was also a decision behind the fairy motif. I don't know why. I guess for me, fairy and luck kind of went together, even though that's kind of not true in most stories, but whatever, it's my story. I do what I want. So she has the ability to fly, and she has the ability to manipulate and transform items using her energy. Now, she can't create things out of thin air, but she can change something to something else, the price being her energy. So very Full Metal Alchemist. And something I didn't mention was that the bracelet things that the other two wear are what store their suits, acting sort of like nanotech. However, Xia doesn't wear this because she's able to change her outfit with her powers. It would probably be easier to just use the tech that the other two have and have more energy available. But the first time she transformed was like out of like it was like in a pinch sort of situation. She had to like do it quickly, and she's just sort of used to doing it this way, and she doesn't want to bother the person that makes all the suits. She's very kind and really empathetic towards others, but she can be a pretty sassy, a little sassy, and can be brutally honest when she needs to be. For her weapons, I didn't actually draw her primary one here, but it's a wand slash staff thing that helps her be able to focus her energy a little easier. This wasn't made by her, it's actual text. She didn't create this one. And her like see-through shawl, I wrote shawl, it's shawl. Her see-through shawl can transform to fairy wings, which she uses to fly better. And she can give this to the others so they can glide down tall places. They can't fly, they can just glide. They can just fall with style, it's fine. And for her civilian look, I wanted it to be much more tamer than her transformed look. So black hair and small pigtails, which is what's basically a shirt and pants in this world, and a big oversized jacket. This drawing was also one that was way easier than the first. It's always interesting when I have to draw something in all green, but it was mostly a turquoise kind of green, and that's good for me because I rarely draw green, and when I do, I just struggle. Green is just a color that I barely use, and there's a reason I barely use it, but this one was fun. And that was pretty much it for Adventurine. So a little backstory, I was kind of rushing to get these drawings done for the video, and I was running out of time for this, so for the sake of my sanity, I decided to put the last two in one drawing, and these two are Nick, the one with brown hair, and Chase, the one with white hair. So out of all of the characters, other than Moonstone, of course, these of the cast are going to be the ones you'll see earliest. They, unlike the others, don't have any powers and are not gem wielders. There may or may not be a time where one of them has one for a short time, but I don't plan on them ending up that way, because I don't really like it when superheroes do that, and everyone in the main cast is a superhero, and that happens a lot in superhero shows. These are just normal humans. Anyway, these two are never in that were never in that original Sailor Moon ripoff version, so they're originals. But Nick and Chase are pretty important. These two are the scientists of the group, Chase being a teen one, and Chase is the one that makes everyone's suits. He's super smart, very nerdy and enthusiastic, but can be compatible and stubborn, so he and Rivers start their friendship off a bit rocky. He's also really into superhero games and comics, and was really excited to make everyone's gear when he found out that gem wielders get superpowers. Before, these two worked with an official scientist guild, and Chase was an assistant along with his old friend. After it shut down, he stayed with Nick in order to research more about the gems, and Chase's design was a tricky one for me to get at first, because I really didn't have a clear idea of what he would look like or what colors would look good on him. But I ended up using a dress-up game to design a rough draft, and that worked really well. And that's actually happened to me a lot. A lot of my characters came from dress-up games. I don't ask. And that's how you get the design of Chase we have now, which I really like. Fits into the 80s vibe very well. Now for Nick, I had already a clear idea for him. Imagining an older guy who is chronically tired and has depression issues is pretty easy to do, turns out. His color palette is the most normal out of all of them, but I did try to give him some more interesting elements, like his piercings, eye bags, and a separate outfit under his lab coat, which I am working on redesigning to fit more of him currently. Nick, like I said, is the mentor type here. Very tired, pretty serious, very sarcastic, and hard to like at first, but he's pretty protective of the others. He also has loads of self-worth issues and anxiety, and whenever something happens, he'll always blame himself, much like how the gemstones got activated. And no, I'm not projecting. Shush, you're projecting. I'm not. He doesn't have really good ways to cope with it either, but he might find that the kids will help him with that. Also, if you notice the little pin he has, yes, he's a trans guy, but he grew up in a family that didn't really accept that, so that plays into his trauma a little bit. Also, he's Hispanic, like Rosa, so similarities with that. As a scientist, he helps Chase with his engineering, but he's more skilled with bio stuff and geology, so he works more on the gemstones and the effects they have. If you're wondering, that glass that he has it's a gemstone in water. When these gemstones are in this world, they'll often turn the water into a different color and make it glow when they're dropped into them. So that's what's happening here, and he's observing it. That's the story. It's not one. I know I didn't have too much more to say with these guys, but I hope talking more about their personalities makes up for it. Yeah, I guess I really didn't have much to say about them, but I do like them a lot. They're very fun to write. I love Nick, but it's kind of hard not to. People just tend to like those type of characters that Nick is. I have another one very similar to him, and she's a whole nother mess. She's a whole nother mess. I've never talked to her about her before, but I would love to bring her up one day and just show her, maybe for a separate chill speed paint, because that'd be great. Actually, before the video ends, since I do make a lot of these type of videos that are dedicated to these group of characters, but I also have other characters that I haven't talked about, I would love you guys to let me know if you'd like more videos like this, but a little less scripted and more sort of just rambly, where it's in the form of a chill speed paint video, but I'm talking about my characters more and giving you guys some more info. I've done this before in the past, but I would love to start making videos like this one, but for singular characters. But yeah, with that, I'll probably either just let this speed paint play out, and then that will be the end of the video. And finally, that was all of them. These drawings took forever to draw, and I hope you enjoyed me talking some more about Moonstone. Again, it's been so long, and I've actually looked back at that video, and I didn't look back at the old script that I had made before. I hadn't watched the old video before writing the whole script, and basically not much has changed. Not much about the story or characters have changed since that first video, but I have made the plot has progressed a lot, and the characters I feel like have progressed a lot. Nick and Chase are here, they're here, the boys are here, so is but she was there too, I just never drew her. But although this project isn't going to be coming out anytime soon, I have 2 other comics that I'm currently working on. You can watch the videos where I talk about those guys and read them on Webtoon, Haiku's Magical World and Mysteries of Hysteria. I also have a comic finished called Lost Hearts that you can check out as well. It's a shorter comic, but I hope you enjoyed that one. My artworks are on my Instagram as always, and with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!